Good afternoon. It's now 3 o'clock. Welcome to our briefings this afternoon. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. At this hour, we'd like to inform you before we begin the rest of our updates that we are awaiting an address to the nation by President Uhuru Kenyatta from State House. The pictures are what you can see on your screen. Remember, not too long ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta formed the COVID-19 fund, bringing together members and leaders of various industries in the country to sort of try and channel the funds and be a central repository for any funds that may be delivered to the country. You can see CSS Ukuri Atani, James Macharia and Joe Musheru, Transport, ICT and Treasury, some three very important ministries that are coming in there, so from State House. And of course, this coming on the back of the donation we've heard, the first big one of its kind. That's about $1 million or 100 million shillings that's been given by Cooperative Bank. And you can see other CEOs there. You can see Kinyua, who's the head of public service, CS Mutahi Kagwe, there is CS Dr. Matiang'i as well as CS Amina. So expecting an address from the president at any moment now. And we will take you there as soon as the president begins to speak. So as we've been updating you now, we have been accustomed to daily briefings from the Ministry of Health, usually led by CS Mutahi Kagwe. One of the things that we are hoping will happen is the formal unveiling of the COVID-19 fund. Remember, there's various heads of industry from media to KEPSA to others, and we will be telling you about that fund and how important it will be, more measures that we are hoping to hear, including supposedly stricter measures on how to avoid COVID-19. Remember, CS Mutahi Kagwe has been talking about the need to have stricter measures in the country to ensure that the fight against COVID is won. And if you recall, we've been talking about perhaps seeing restrictions in travel across the counties. All of this, remember, CS Mutahi Kagwe has been telling Kenyans to avoid traveling up country, particularly to the young people. Now, what we're hoping to hear today is more details on any stricter measures that the government may feel the need to impose in the war against this. And of course, the formal unveiling of that fund. Remember, various philanthropists and businessmen who would like to make their contributions have perhaps not had a formal way to do it. Now they will get the opportunity with the COVID-19 fund that is being managed by the executive, and we hope to hear from President Uhuru Kenyatta. You can see a good number of cabinet secretaries there for this one. So as soon as President Uhuru Kenyatta begins to speak, we will take you there live. Remember, we continue here with our COVID-19 updates. And staying with COVID-19 updates, let's take you to Mombasa now. Kilifi County Deputy Governor Gideon Saburi will continue being held in police custody until Thursday, the 9th of April, when Mombasa's senior resident magistrate Rita Amwai will deliver her ruling on whether to release him on bail. Saburi, who was arrested on Friday, denied charges linked to his failure to observe COVID-19 self-quarantine directives. The prosecution wants the deputy governor to be held for 14 days, pending investigations into his conduct after a trip from Germany. Let's now take you to State House now for a briefing and speaking to the nation.
Fellow Kenyans, I address you again today because, as you are aware, the entire world is going through an extraordinary emergency. Indeed, the last time the world faced a disease of such rapid and dire impact as coronavirus was over a century ago, when an influenza epidemic claimed tens of millions of lives. Indeed, a few decades prior to that, a terrible sleeping sickness epidemic wrought havoc in our own eastern part of this continent of Africa. And as such, I and the government will do everything in our power to ensure that we as a nation shall not suffer such terrifying outcomes as a result of this current COVID-19. As this pandemic sweeps through the nations of the world, our country, Kenya, has not been spared, and never has the national interest been threatened to this extent in the history of our young nation. Our families, our schools, our way of life, the way we worship, our economy, our businesses, our workers, every single Kenyan stands threatened by this invisible, relentless enemy that is COVID-19. Fellow Kenyans, as of this morning, we have tested a total of about 4,277 persons, and today we have an additional 16 persons turning positive, making our national total 158. In the same breath, we also note with gratitude that we have 4 persons that have fully recovered from this disease. We also, as a nation, pray for the quick recovery of those undergoing treatment, as we condole with the families and friends of the 6 that have regrettably lost their lives to this pandemic. This virus is unforgiving, and its rate of growth, if not arrested, is exponential. Yet because it cannot be smelt, it is an enemy that can easily convince you that life can continue as normal. While the majority of people who get it recover, most without showing severe symptoms, if this disease spreads to larger numbers, it can lead to unprecedented pressure on our medical facilities, which may lead to an equally unprecedented loss of life. Therefore, I will go to any length, any lawful length, to respond to COVID-19. Fellow Kenyans, governments all over the world, including our own, are taking unprecedented steps to arrest the spread of this pandemic and indeed to flatten the curve of its spread. Different measures are being taken across the globe, depending on every country's unique circumstances. But what is clear from experiences around the world is that the pandemic is likely to continue spreading with lethal effect without decisive action. So, fellow Kenyans, there is a choice that we are asked to make as a government and to make as a people? Do we carry on as normal or treat this like an extraordinary emergency, which it is, and fundamentally change the way we act and behave? I believe we must choose the latter, because even as we pray for the best, we must be ready for the worst. It is in moments like this that the character of a people and the destiny of a nation is truly clarified. Fellow Kenyans, today we are being called upon by our children and our children's children to show the greatness in us by how we respond to this virus. If we act, as I believe we should, like the fingers folded into a fist, we can stop the damage that this pandemic can cause to our nation. Our greatness will not be revealed by soldiers in uniform this time. It will show in the sacrifices that we make to protect one another. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, wearing your mask and washing hands does indeed save lives. The bravery and dedication of our medical personnel, should this pandemic continue to escalate, will truly demonstrate the mettle of our nation. And I indeed have faith in Kenyans. I know how we struggle through pain and tears to be there for our families. But now it is our time to turn out for the duration of this global pandemic. We must turn out for our country by taking the following measures, as I have said severally, as simple as they may be, and we must stick to them. We must endeavor to wear masks when we are amongst our people. We must clean our hands with soap for at least 20 seconds and do so several times a day. We must continue to avoid all areas with people who will be closer to you than 1.5 meters. We must, I repeat, heed and comply with government directives. We must take extra care not to expose those who are over 58 years, and also to our brothers and sisters who are suffering from various chronic ailments. So fellow Kenyans, having received advice from our medical professionals and experts, today we do say that Kenyans should wear masks while in public places. I know that there will be thousands of tailors from all over the country who will also look to make these masks, and we encourage them to do so. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Industry and Trade will endeavor to ensure that all these tailors are provided with the right information through the national government administrative officers on the kind of materials required and the proper method of piecing the fabrics together to make the face masks and to ensure that they are effective. Their success, however, will need all of us as individual citizens to comply with the different directives, and we as a people to be united. This virus is in nearly all countries and territories on the globe. This virus does not care about your religion. It does not care about the color of your skin, the tribe you come from, or the size of your wallet. It is not infecting members of one tribe while staying away from another. So therefore, defeating it will require all of us to put aside our usual differences and to face the enemy standing side by side. Our unity is demonstrated and will be demonstrated by each Kenyan going the extra mile to ensure that our personal conduct does not endanger others. It will show in the decisions by business owners to do their utmost to support their employees. Fellow Kenyans, make no mistake, we are at war, and we must be together if we shall win this war. I recognize once again the good work being done by our Ministry of Health, and indeed all government ministries and departments in the current fight. But I believe that we must escalate our response even more in order to safeguard our nation. As you are aware, the spread of COVID-19 is through human contact. On the declaration of the global health emergency, in accordance with the World Health Organization guidelines, we did as a country enhance surveillance at all points of entry into our country to avert contact with the disease. Unfortunately, notwithstanding our interventions that included the closure of Kenyan airspace and mandatory quarantine of all inbound passengers, the few persons who had contracted the disease from abroad transmitted it locally. So therefore, a majority of the persons who have contracted the disease are residents of the Nairobi Metropolitan Area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. The few confirmed cases outside Nairobi and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa can be traced to persons who have either traveled from our nation's capital or from those three counties that I have mentioned. In that regard, and in order to halt this worrying trend, the Cabinet Secretary of Health issued declarations under the Public Health Act in which COVID-19 was declared a notifiable disease and a formidable epidemic disease. Therefore, fully conscious that 82% of Kenya's reported cases of COVID-19 have been in respect of residents of the Nairobi Metropolitan Area, and B, that 14% of Kenya's reported cases of COVID-19 have been in respect of residents of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa, the Cabinet Secretary for Health has further declared the Nairobi Metropolitan Area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale and Mombasa as COVID-19 infected areas. Accordingly, to contain and limit the spread of the disease to other parts of the country, the National Security Council has sanctioned and caused the issuance of the following additional measures. Number one, that there shall be cessation of all movement by road, rail, or air in and out of A, the Nairobi Metropolitan Area, and B, the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. Number two, the cessation of movement within the Nairobi Metropolitan Area shall be for an initial containment period of 21 days with effect from 7 p.m. Monday, the 6th of April, 2020. That is today. And three, that the cessation of movement within the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa shall be for an initial containment period of 21 days with effect from 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 8th of April, 2020. In the intervening period, movement in and out of the coastal strip shall be limited. 4, the Nairobi Metropolitan Area is designated as follows. The Nairobi City County, part of Kiambu County up to Chania River Bridge, Thika, including Rironi, Dedero, Kiambu Town. Part of Machakos County up to Athi River, including Katani. Part of Kajiado County, including Kitengela, Kiserian, Ongatarungai, Ngong Town, and all areas as set out in the order. 5, the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. 6, any person, passenger carrying bicycles, motorcycles, scooters, automobiles, vehicles, vessels, railway wagons, or aircraft shall not be allowed in and out of the Nairobi Metropolitan Area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa. 7, the movement of food supplies and other cargo will continue as normal during the declared containment period through road, rail, and air. Number 8, any cargo carrying vehicle or vessel shall be assigned a single driver and designated assistants whom in whichever case shall not exceed 3 persons. All such designated persons must be notified in writing by the owner or operator of the said vehicle or vessel with reference to to that vehicle or vessel. So all owners and operators of vehicles will be required to notify the authorities of the driver and the said assistance. Number 9, these additional measures do not in any way vary the existing restrictions and measures, including the daily nationwide curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the entire territory of the Republic of Kenya. Fellow Kenyans, I issue these enhanced measures well aware that they will complicate and inconvenience many Kenyans. However, by not doing so, this can only lead to even greater suffering for the people of Kenya. I want to take this opportunity to once again thank all Kenyans for their shared understanding, and in the same breath also urge our law enforcement officers and agencies to be mindful and sensitive as they enforce this curfew and the additional measures that we have taken today. However, I must continue to emphasize that we shall remain firm and fair, but we will strictly abide by the dictates of the law. We must together take a stand here before COVID-19 spreads out of control. And fellow Kenyans, we must be ready to go even further if it becomes necessary. As we face this deadly enemy, I want every Kenyan to recognize those who are going to be so crucial to our victory. These include, amongst others, our emergency service providers, our medical officers, our nurses, our doctors, all those who clean and cook and put supplies in our hospitals will face one of the greatest health challenges our country has ever seen. Alongside these great Kenyans, there will be other providers of critical or essential services, our security personnel, our administration officers, our electricity and water sanitation officers, our telephony, banking, and retail sector workers, our farmers and food transporters. And indeed today, to these essential service workers, I want to say thank you for the great work that you continue to do for our country. I am deeply appreciative of each and every Kenyan who is adhering to the laid down guidelines and protocol, who is abiding with the current nationwide curfew. We appreciate those practicing physical and social distancing, all those Kenyans from across this great land who are facilitating our efforts to get ahead of the curve, those that are making the necessary sacrifices today so that we can ensure a brighter future. To all of you in millions, we appreciate your understanding, your commitment, and your love for your country and your fellow citizens. So fellow Kenyans, as we emerge from the peak of this health threat, because it shall peak and it shall come to an end, we will again together need to be united in order to rebuild our economy, which has really been hurt by this virus, and also to face the other major challenges that we have as a people. This extraordinary health challenge calls on us Kenyans to tap into our creativity, which is great amongst our people. And we want to continue to tap into that. I want to take this opportunity to also laud all our county governments who have also played their role in waiving local fees for trade in food items. And accordingly, I wish to applaud in particular the county government of Nakuru, who offered Afuraha Stadium, for example, as an open-air market in line with the social distancing guidelines. And similarly, I want to encourage our traders and our farmers in fresh produce and all other produce to continue with their agricultural activities so as to ensure continued supply of farm produce to our markets. Such farm produce that embodies the diversity of Kenya, from our rice to our beans, to our maize, our potatoes, our cabbages, and even our miraa farmers, our tomato farmers, our banana farmers. To all those in authority, be of assistance and help these farmers be able to continue and sell their wares to our people. Let them be able to continue their legal trade within the boundaries of the protocols that have been set out by the Ministry of Health. Fellow Kenyans, now more than ever before, I am pleased to see Kenyans stepping up for each other in all our communities. At the national level, I last week established the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund. And we are very happy to see the manner that Kenyans from all walks of life have responded and are contributing to help their brothers and sisters in need. But I also want to state that even as we confront the current health challenge, our war on corruption continues to bear fruit. Indeed, over the last year, our state agencies charged with this national endeavor were able to make significant recoveries of illegal gotten wealth. And in that regard, as we scale up our interventions against the current health pandemic, I have today directed the National Treasury to utilize 2 billion shillings of already recovered proceeds from corrupt practices, and these funds to be utilized to support the most vulnerable members of our society, especially the needy in our urban areas. Our fight against corruption continues, and as I promised you, all the gains that we make in this war will be put back to supporting Kenyans and helping Kenyans live a proper life. I also want at this stage to also acknowledge all the state and public officers who have followed my lead and taken voluntary pay cuts in order to support our fight against coronavirus. In sharing the heavy burden of the current pandemic, which has led to lost opportunities. I applaud the members of our society who have risen to the call to support and share in the bounty of their blessings with their fellow countrymen, helping many cope with the fears weighing on their minds to provide a decent living for their families. I note with particular appreciation those property owners who have reduced or agreed to work terms for the monthly rent in order to help provide a roof over the heads of our more vulnerable brothers and sisters. And in that regard, I wish to urge all others to emulate this great example and not put our people in even more vulnerable situations as we face this current pandemic. This is truly a time for compassion. This is truly a time for understanding. Fellow Kenyans, I want to assure you that every shilling we save in salaries and allowances is one that we shall use towards face masks, medical supplies, specialized equipment to support the most vulnerable members in our society through the provision of water and food items, and in support of any other initiatives needed by our nation in this war. To that end, I have also directed the Nairobi Metropolitan Service to not only continue, but to expand their provision of free water to all our informal settlements in Nairobi County. In that regard, I also direct the National Treasury to appropriate all domestic and international travel budgets for all state agencies within the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, and the county governments, and to reallocate these resources to combating COVID-19. Fellow Kenyans, last week, and in order to protect jobs for our people and to provide some certainty for both employees and their employers, I want to once again today reiterate the measures that we have undertaken to offer relief and increase disposable income to the people of Kenya. I did state that we shall have 100% tax relief for all persons earning gross monthly income of up to Kenya shillings 24,000.